Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this episode of the Women's Show. I'll be your host, Tricia, Gloria, Nabaye. Today we want to talk about women's political leadership and participation. What does that look like in this current environment? So as we speak today, we are back from the Sorority East by-election. You saw the intricacies that happened there, and we are gearing into another election on August 11th. And so constantly the question that is on our hearts and on our minds is, where are the women? Today I have a perfect panel of 3 women who are also in leadership in their own capacities, here to dissect that conversation on how do we increase participation of women in politics and have meaningful gains for women and, the women's movement. And joining me for this conversation, I have Trassyleen Ankunda. Trassyleen is a law student. She's also the vice chairwoman NRM Makere chapter. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you.
It's good to have you. And then I have Nagita Mayimuna, who is a woman councillor, LC4, yes. Mukono Municipality.
Yes.
From my chalo. Welcome, Nagita.
Thank you for hosting me.
It's good to have you. And lastly, but certainly not least, I have Hellen, who is the vice president, UID. She's here she will tell us the intricacies also of the DP party as well. Welcome to this show.
Thank you so much, Tracy, and I bring greetings from the Democratic Party.
Thank you. Ladies, we are all leaders in some capacity. And maybe to dissect this conversation, I would want to understand what that feels like to be part of leadership wherever you are in the Makere chapter of the NRM, in Mukono as an LC4. That's big for local government as well, and also in the UID structures. What's a dynamic like, especially being female and being in leadership? I'll begin with you, Trassyleen.
Okay, thank you very much. To begin with, I must say that it is a very interesting process being a leader and a woman. Usually society being patriarchal, we have not taken that step of faith as ladies to come out and open doors for others. Because honestly, I must say that I did not come out because of nothing. There are those ladies in the field that you look at and they inspire you. And you feel like, I think I should also take up steps like this. For example, me, I'm the vice chairperson NRM. We might say that usually those posts are left for the ladies to be a vice chairperson or maybe to be a deputy, this and that.
Secretary.
Yes. So, being a vice chairperson of NRM, it is not the only position that I've held. I'm a Western POFA delegate. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you must be a woman to take up such roles. So I feel that this platform of being a woman in leadership gives you quite an interesting situation in society. This is where you get to know people. I'm not saying men do not get to know, but with the ladies,
you network.
Yes, you network. And then there is that confidence that comes with it. If Tracy, I can stand up and speak, I feel good. I feel like, I think I should also encourage someone behind to join in. And this has been a system from year to year, ranging from the 19s, where we had very few ladies. We had this Bagaya Elizabeth in the 1970s. Then there came in the Vitamazire. Like with time, we have seen ladies. We have seen Kadaga take up speakership roles. And now we have seen Amongi. We have seen Amongi take up also a speakership role. So I feel us as ladies, those are icons to society. But they are icons that should come back and pick us up.
Maybe to interrogate that point, in the public, the conversation would be, has it been meaningful for women to have these ladies in these positions of power? Has it had an impact, apart from, the numbers, the visibility of, there is a woman in this space? Has there been meaningful impact for women in society, having these women sit in those offices?
Yes, okay. I feel, yes, there's been some impact, but the impact has been centered on certain groups of women. Maybe say the young women in schools, because usually these peers, when they come, they're going to schools to talk to those young ladies. But how about the women in the village? They do not have that platform, or very few of them have a chance to listen to a woman. Even these women MPs that we vote for, you find, you just hear this one is contesting, you support, you never see them. So I feel that has been done according to the different categories of people. If I am to take an example, there is this Deputy Secretary General, Rosemary Namayanja. So she calls us one time. She has the RNF Foundation, and she calls young girls in institutions to mentor you. It could be through her story, because stories are forms of mentorship. Yeah, it could be through her experience, what she went through, and where she is now. And personally, there is a time I listened to her story and I was like, wow, I think I should not give up. I think these challenges that come along the way are not here to stay. One day, I'll also be that great girl that I want to be. So definitely, I feel that, yes, it is there, but not largely. It is there with an influence of different categories. Maybe you are in an association, maybe you are in church, maybe you're in academics. So you find that the other category of people that is outside is not benefiting. So how best would we think that we should come up? I feel that we as ladies, we should always take it out by ourselves and join maybe those associations, maybe join those institutions. Let us love education.
Right. Let me bring you in, Nagita, especially because she speaks something that I need the tangible of it. When we look at the figures, Uganda looks like it has won when it comes to affirmative action.
Exactly.
And we feel like we have a lot of women within our politics, but the impact of their presence is something that we need to interrogate. And you sitting in local government most probably would be ideal to tell us what then it's like to be a leader in local government and try to navigate, the intricate politics that sometimes takes front center instead of work. Is there work being done?
Okay, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and talk about the points that really matter. And that is the politics, because politics is everything we do and it affects almost all our lives. And even the people who don't want to be part of politics actually are part of politics because it affects them. Being a leader as a woman, it is something very interesting. It is so sad that in our communities, we are looking more at affirmative action seats as women. Because when you're planning to stand for a position, chances are high you will come on an affirmative action seat. I'm a new person in the politics. I've only served for 1 year, but back then I was not in the politics already. So I just joined recently when I felt the need, and then, I got through. But the moment I said I want to stand, someone was like,
result of a wave.
There was a wave.
Yes, there was a wave. And I think, let me first respond to that quickly, then I go on. Politics is about parties, mostly in our country, Uganda. So if you choose the right party, the one that has your values and the one that has, chances are high you will, people associate with your political ideology. So people who stand in places where NRM is the stronghold, your chances are high to win in that particular place. If DP is stronger, your chances are high to become so you have to associate with a party that stands with your values, but again, a party that can, communicate to the people. So NUP ideology was strong in my place. So me coming out as a NUP person and with a strong ideology, that's how I got through, and I'm still working under that ideology, and I'm serving my people very well.
I do not know that.
So without diverting me from my points, I was talking about the affirmative action seats that we normally look to. When you say I'm going to stand for a position, chances are everybody will be like, go for a woman's seat, go for a woman's seat. At first I wanted to be like, let me go for a direct seat. But everyone was telling me the dynamics here are going to be very hard for you because everyone is going to feel like that position is for a man. So your chances will be less to pass through. And then I was like, okay, so for me to choose a position, let me choose the affirmative action seat. And maybe after people getting to know how I do my things, how you know, I'm a good person, I can serve you better, maybe then after proving a point, I'll be able to stand on a position that is not affirmative action, you know, seat. And for me, it worries me when we say that numbers are growing, yet we have people who are sitting on affirmative action seats. It's really worrying me. I'm not rubbishing the affirmative action seats, but I think we need more women in the direct seats, because if we only stand for affirmative seats, we will never make the numbers. Right now, we have like about 180 something women in the parliament, and the men are very many. So we are still having less numbers, and affirmative action is not enough right now. Maybe it's high time the women chose to move. Like if you come out and you serve your people better, join the direct seat and then give another woman a chance to also serve.
Is it possible?
And they see your abilities.
Sorry to cut you short, but just the intricacies that you speak about, that even when you wanted to join and come and, you know, stand for elective politics, the idea was that you couldn't come on a direct seat, and so you had to take on an affirmative action seat.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is it possible that the realities of that still exist even when we try to push women into taking on the direct seat?
Exactly. It still exists because culture and mindset, it's something that is very hard to, you know, tackle. And we very well know that right now we are facing different issues. Like women are facing a challenge joining the political space because one of the factors is culture. So if the culture is still putting women down and they think they have to come on a different kind of, like, your seat is the woman's seat, that is the seat that is, you know, accorded to you. And when you want to stand on a direct seat, they call it a money seat, you know. In Luganda it's like yesimbye ku kifo ky'abasajja, you know. So it is
then
always
do we
very
deal
hard
away
for
with
you.
the affirmative action?
No, we don't deal away with the affirmative action, but affirmative action should be medium of women getting into the politics. Like I told
I think
you,
we need
I got
kind of
into
like
the
a
politics.
policy. Maybe
Exactly.
I'm going to bring you in here, Hellen. Let me bring in Hellen now.
Yeah.
Especially on that, on affirmative action. And then maybe you can smuggle in the wave. Lucky. Yes, Hellen.
I really feel it is fun, but with pressure to be a woman in politics, because you're on pressure to deliver. Like, you know, if you do not deliver, there is something that comes along with, because she's a woman, because she's a lady, and you know, you're on that pressure, but that is opposite to the other gender, that for them, they will never attach something like, because he's a man, they know men must deliver. And it also comes with the challenges of, you know, there is a lot that goes through within you having to reach at some level. The challenges are so many. If you're a woman and you're maybe a mother, you have a lot to do at home, you have a lot to do this way. But all that goes back to, I think that is a personal issue. That if you deliver, then you'll have set a pace that nobody will put you down. I want to give an example, like the likes of the Winnie Keys. I think so far for me, she's the best opposition leader that we've had. If putting men aside and gender aside, for me she's the best opposition leader of opposition we've had. And she was a woman, so she has set a pace for us that at least women can deliver something. Maybe to also go back to the affirmative action, I believe we actually need a policy towards that. That maybe if you've been a woman and member of parliament for about 10 years, you can at least shift and go somewhere else. Otherwise, it is losing meaning, because that among reasons that's why that was put was to bring more women into politics. But now if we're having a member of parliament, a woman member of a parliament for a district for 10 years, 15, then it has lost meaning, because that brings in the fact that everyone that comes up, we have reached a level to where in some districts, young girls even fear to come up because at that level you've piled a lot of money on you, and even when you don't come, some women in some districts just send in money. Leaving aside that there are some women in parliament for these districts who have really delivered. We need a policy towards that.
Maybe on that, Helen, especially because I'm struggling with delivery. And I don't want to negate the fact that there is a certain level of highlight or spotlight that falls on women leaders. For example, a lot of people made Miss Tayewa's mistakes, but made necessarily not Miss Anita Among's mistakes. But it's also heightened with the fact that she is a woman. And so when you speak to that, is it possible that delivery is, once you get into these spaces, and I want to imagine you guys are doing a lot wherever you are, but once you get into these spaces, how do you then navigate, you know, the patriarchy within the trenches of leadership to be able to deliver on your manifesto and on the promises that you did for the people?
Well, it is quite hard because we are dealing with mindset and we are dealing with the societal issues. The society is just patriarchal. So what you do when you're in such positions, your role is to focus and make sure you stay to the, like you stay in your lane, you stay put to what you're supposed to do. Otherwise, when you listen to background noise, it becomes a problem, because you realize at some point it can be sexualized, at some point it can be genderalized. So it is up to focusing, and you know that this is what I had in my manifesto, and I have to deliver. I like the fact that my Honorable Anita is really so straight to what she's supposed to deliver. Leave alone background noise. She's really, when she was coming up, I was actually so worried because we had, you know, our social media in-laws, and social media is something. It is good, but it has created more bad than good to me. Because there was a lot of noise, you know, when Nabanja was put as Prime Minister. There is an MP that said that some MP said that when she reaches somewhere, people just laugh without any reason. So you realize that all that is because the society is so patriarchal. So we have a lot to do with the mindset. You realize even these trainings that talk about women in politics are centralized. They are within even the center. You don't go down there to train people down in these villages. They end up within the metropolitan. Then what remains the fate for that woman down there in Ruchiga district, down in that village? They still remain in the history of a woman must stop at affirmative. And then when you go for that other seat, they're like, wow, how did she even get there? And this is a man thing. So we have to go down even to explain to the man down there and the woman down there that it is not about affirmative action only, but a woman can deliver even in another position.
But again, on the issue of Nabanja, I think as women, we need to front women who are going to represent us very well, because we are still facing the issue of breaking the patriarchy. And if we put women in positions of power who are not going to represent us very well, then it will affect the mindset of the person down there. Nabanja is a good person and she's delivering, but probably she was putting in a position that does not suit her skills, her skill set. That is just my thinking.
Maybe also to add on that, Mayimuna, and interrogate it further. We had the Sorority East by-election happen, and the Vice President was in Sorority. The Prime Minister was in Sorority. The Speaker of Parliament was in Sorority. And if anything, the people that were in Sorority would tell you the women ashamed us. The women were the ones. Nabaye was at the height, allegedly. I want to say allegedly so that they don't crucify me. Allegedly at the height of, you know, giving out money. Last week we hosted the Deputy Lord Mayor, and she was like, I was very disappointed with the nature of the women that had been at the forefront. And the Vice President was actually, you know, kicked out of Sorority and sent back here because they had their own internal political, you know, conflict. And then so you had this whole charade of women leaders in Sorority, And by far, if we are to speak on by-elections, people say that was a very terrible by-election that happened.
yes.
So what does that speak to women leadership, and especially for women in political leadership, when it comes to issues like electoral politics and, pushing for democracy? And the first, because they're the first that we see for the women. So how do we reconcile them being there and us celebrating, and them being at the heart and center of toxic electoral democracy?
Yeah, first of all, the root of the problem is deep, because we have to interrogate also the fact that we have to interrogate why these women are appointed to be in those positions. I think it's now like NRM keeps boosting around, empowering more women and all that. And that is good. I'm not saying it's bad, but we have to know the reasons why they appoint those women. And for me, I think they appoint them because they are easier to use in certain issues. Like it's easier to, tell them, let's go and do this. And then they'll be proud to go and do such things without even minding about their reputation. But probably if they had selected another person of a different gender, sometimes it's hard to navigate them. So I think we should just, advocate for, appointing women who are of substance, like women who really mind about their values. For example, women like Nyanjura, she's a very good role model. If she's put in a position, she will protect her legacy, and she works on values. She does not work on, things that are put her down. So we just need to advocate for better women to be put in positions of power, because if we put women who will embarrass us, it is going to affect the mindset of people, and we will not be able to fight the mindset, because it really takes time to change that.
You've reminded me of a conversation we once had on affirmative action and meritocracy. Should we have women in these spaces due to merit, or have them on the affirmative action? No. And we started because still in society, women are usually the lesser person, and they're still marginalized.
Exactly.
Even just having them on the affirmative action, regardless of merit, is key. So I want to bring you in there, Trassyleen.
Yes.
Especially because you are in a critical space in our politics. Makerere is, we want to pretend we don't know it, but it is at the height of the political birthing for a lot of youth in our system. And I believe that being vice gives you a little bit, being vice chairperson for the Makerere chapter of NRM gives you a little bit of preview in what your leadership can do for the younger women. And I want us to interrogate how you are, navigating the politics within the university vis-a-vis the politics outside. Because I know for a fact that Makerere has, in the span of 100 years, had 2 female guild presidents. And it looks like an achievement, but in a span of 100 years, it feels like we've, sidetracked a lot of times when it comes to women in leadership. So how do we boost that kind of participation for women, and especially female leaders in the university, to push not only for them to participate, but also to have meaningful and gainful participation?
Okay, so well, every society, an institution or a university like Makerere is also a category or a sector of an institution. This is, even if it was a different organization, it is still running almost the same as other organizations. But this is a situation where it is students. You have to do academics, you have to do politics, and you have to deliver to students. But then also, as you're doing that, what are you gaining as an individual? Because I feel, yes, we have politics, but what we lack is politics with a purpose, or politics with a vision. Some of us think that Tricia should come out, maybe contest for that, and then that's it. We forget to bring back, even when we have the other ladies that are striving to ensure that we as women rise up. For example, the Speaker of Parliament, the former
Rebecca
Kadaga, there was a policy that was passed that 40% of the people in the parliament should be ladies. Yes, with the hassles here and there, it is now at least compared to how it was then. But it all comes back to you as an individual. As an individual who was trusted by people, voted for, or maybe appointed for. As ladies, patriarchy or being a male-dominated society, it is something that I feel for years we have tried to run away from, but for years it keeps running towards us. So what do? Do we stay stand still, or we have to increase the speed as you are running away from it? One of the main things I can say is, you as a lady, it doesn't come like there and there. It takes time. And usually we do not want to give that bit of time to ourselves. We feel maybe today, Tracy, I'm a class rep. Tomorrow I need to be this. The next day I need to be this. But we forget that even being a woman, you're not delivering. If society already has that perception of you being a woman, how best are you going to navigate that? You have to be extremely and extremely good so that society does not doubt your capacity as a woman. Trust me, if you're good, they'll be like, she's good. Even when she's a lady, she's good and she can do it and she can deliver. So we need to work on ourselves as women. We need to read books about successful women, and we need to put in practice what we read as ladies. I believe that being extremely good is the only thing that can make you beat against all the other odds. Even when they say she's a woman, but you're good.
True.
There's no one who will doubt your capacity. And I trust you'll get to the forefront.
True.
And
But then you first have to go to the politics for people to see that you're good.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I love that the example Hellen gave, especially because when you look at Honorable Winnie Kiza, from the point she entered, politics, even into crossing into alliance, she's still delivering, and she'll stay true to herself. So I hear you when you say you've got to be really, really good.
Yes.
And you've got to be, critically uncompromisable, because it's very easy to be compromised.
Yes.
And it's also very easy to be silenced. Let me bring you in, Hellen, here. Recently, the opposition parties coming out of the Sorority East by-election decided that they would create a pact of unity. And in Monday, they had a statement given out. And FDC, JEMA, and PPP, and NOOP, joined forces to be able to, navigate the intricacies of electoral democracy in Uganda, because we've lost 3 by-elections. And none of them were in peaceful means. So we don't even know if we can say they were free and fair. And so we have the top leadership of these political parties come and sign a pact of unity in pushing on how to navigate, the fact that we now even look at elections as something that cannot deliver. Because that's a statement that kept coming back. Elections can't deliver democracy. And so we are entering a season of civil disobedience. But what does that mean for not just the political environment, but also for women's participation?
Well, the fact is I saw the whole front desk.
And why wasn't DP invited?
DP was... we have been pushing this for long. Like, we've pushed dialogue, we've pushed coalitions for long, and it is not seemingly not working. So, and for us, it is for a peaceful transition, by the way. That is what we've been advocating for, and we are still advocating for the same. The president,
so you chose to merge with the party?
It's not called a merger. There is a difference between a merger, there is a difference between an alliance, and there is also a coalition. What we did is an agreement, cooperation agreement. Those 4 terms are completely different.
You did it as DP or as personalities?
It is the Democratic Party that did the cooperation agreement with the National Resistance Movement.
But some of your candidates are denying.
What are the candidates
you're
denying?
Not part of that
agreement? In democracy, there is always a yes or a no, and where we have people who are saying, more having louder voices, not even numbers.
I was watching Lulume this morning, and he was like, no.
It is an issue of the voice being so loud rather than the numbers. And in democracy, that is so allowed. Actually, for us, our interest is about those that are quiet, because silence is always having a lot behind it. So I was still explaining that when I saw the table in front, it seemingly had enough of men than women. And look, you realize that it is about the positions that people hold in parties. It is not even a gender issue. So it goes back to you as a woman. Why are we choosing to vice only?
Exactly.
Why are we choosing to, vice this, vice this? This is the time that we've got to move to the front.
Yeah.
In most of these political parties, we do not have any political party that has a head as a woman. Apart from Aunt, I had Honorable Muntu saying for him he was a presidential candidate, and then Alice Alaso is the leader. But where is Alice Alaso? Where is she called? Even these media houses have promoted patriarchy. They no longer invite women. You look at these political talk shows, and the desk is full of men only. So
we once had a conversation on manners, and we decided that we need to be invited, even if just to sit and feed us.
The women's movement has a lot that we have to advocate for. If we are advocating for women at the front line, then let us do it all over. And maybe we need to issue a statement, and maybe advocate for a policy even to these media houses, because themselves they are promoting patriarchy. But then you realize even some of the women are not willing to move to the front. I tell you, I am a vice, but next I'm not willing to vice anybody. I must be there because I believe I have all it takes to actually lead. And women, wherever you are, make sure even when your boss is a man, you always take them on. Make sure you're seen. By the way, it is not even about the post that I hold. It is about the fact that I can actually get there and lead. So even when you're my boss and you're a man, I will always show you that actually I can put you on pressure. If you can't deliver, I will deliver until I'm seen. So it is about that. Maybe you echo for me the question that you asked.
Oh yeah, so the question was on what does that speak for our political environment as of now. I love that you talked about transition, because a lot of us have reduced transition and succession into one category. And so there is no dynamic to understand that transition could be that we are trying to sanitize our political environment and the political order, which seemingly has been lost, because now, I mean, elections look like they can no longer deliver the democratic leaders. And then there is the question of succession that speaks to changing, the presidency to someone else. So when you speak of transition, what then does that speak to, especially you from UID, but then also, slash DP?
Well, you realize Uganda has never had a peaceful transition, of which if there is chaos, I want to assure you that it is women and the youth who will suffer the most. That other generation will not suffer. So it is us, the youth, actually, to realize what we want. And let us stop this habit of getting used in every person that comes up, in every organization that comes up, in every movement, in every pressure group, and in every wave. It is us, the youth, because we are many, by the way. We are many by number, and we are the most. It is us to determine where we want our country to be. When Democratic Party talks of dialogue, we, the youth, are not supposed to sit back. Can we come up and determine where this world is supposed to be? Because if you sit back, someone is going to determine it for you, and you will not like it. We have young children, we are in relationships, maybe some have not produced like I, and if we sit back, someone is going to determine this for us. When we talk of coalitions, the first question that comes into my mind is that, are those heads seated there genuine? The keyword for me is genuine. Are you pushing the cause for Uganda, or you're pushing the cause for a certain group, for a certain political party? I believe it is time we should put political parties aside and focus on Uganda as an entity. Because for us, we can have NUP, we can have Democratic Party, we can have FDC, we can have NRM. We can never have another Uganda. So it is high time that we set ourselves as youth and sat in front and said, this is the Uganda we want. What do we want? The succession that people are talking about, I've had birthday parties, I have had celebrations. I do not think it is possible at the time. We have very good youth. We have leaders This country has groomed enough leaders. What we are doing best seemingly is slave trade, which they quote as the taking people to work outside. But what about if you called our people back and sat and determined where we want to go? We must dialogue and talk about what we want our country to look like as youth. These coalitions that are being made, the cooperation agreements in your political parties, I believe we have the youth leaders. We have to sit our elders down and tell them, look, even when you go there, we need the chair for a youth there. Because there is nothing that is going to be done in this country unless we engage youth and women. Because women are a biggest number and youth are a biggest number. We need these two entities speak on what exactly should be done in this country.
Hellen, I was one of the many people that, dealt with the intellectual work around the national dialogue. And I think last week when we had a panel like this, I was talking about the Sorority East by-election, and one of the people we worked with, suggested dialogue still as an entity. And the question that was in the plenary was, how do you talk to a person who is aggrieving you?
Exactly.
And so, and I think Honorable Doreen Nigeria kept saying, when we speak dialogue, you cannot speak to a person who is hurting you, who is aggrieving you. So as much as dialogue, and I was also called back because I always thought dialogue is a solution, but as much as dialogue is a solution, we need to come to a place where we've sanitized a little bit of the things that we are doing in the
Well, I think it all starts with the truth and reconciliation. We need to sit and talk to each other and tell each other the truth.
Are we ready to hear the truth? Maybe let me bring you there, Mayimuna.
You shall be ready, but you must.
Let me bring in Mayimuna here quickly. Do these coalitions, how do we then ensure that these coalitions that are happening have women's political participation? How do we have women sit on these tables and be counted to matter? Are they part of the drafted, the statements, the pact? Like, where do we see the hand of women in such a coalition?
Thank you so much. During coalitions that have been made, even in the past, most cases it's the men that take the front. But I have to say women do a lot of work during the liberation of countries, the revolutions. They do a lot of work. Work that you cannot even measure. And I feel like the only issue that we need to work on is bringing them on the decision-making tables because they do not get to make the decisions, but they do a lot of work around implementation. So for me, I think in the coalitions, women are there, but we just need to take on the spaces in the decision-making tables. Like Hellen said, women, of course, the decision-making tables is comprised of people who are on top positions, of which you cannot blame the parties for,
but is it a men's club? Because it almost looks like it's a men's world, and women will come in to implement what the men decided.
Unfortunately, that's the world we are living right now. But I think it's high time we changed.
And also,
this is the time for us
maybe
to keep
chip in.
changing.
The other unfortunate bit is that even when we have women as the biggest number, whenever a woman comes up, we are not supporting our fellow women. I want to take an example in the last election. Even if you talk about these feminists who are on top, we had the presidential female candidate, Nancy Karemba. If you went down and asked how many women voted that woman, they are limited. I think she got 0.something% in the whole election. We have a female guild president in Makere. She's supporting a male candidate, yet there is a female candidate in the race. If you ask her herself, she may be supporting a male, and we have a female. And she's here advocating for women inclusion in politics.
But
so
what
I think
does
it
that
also
mean?
goes back to us as a women.
But what does that mean, Hellen? Because that very question you're asking me, one of the leaders at Makere did ask, is like, we have a woman and a female in the race for the guild, but her ideology does not, I do not subscribe to her ideology. And her politics is a little bit different from my politics. Do I then still push for her vis-a-vis my politics? Do I be true to her and not true to what I believe in? It's a little bit sticky.
Yes,
it is
it
sticky,
is.
but it always goes back to what can you do as a person. Because I believe that lady, you have even time to sit that woman down and you tell her, look, your ideology is different, but I believe we have something that is in common.
But
me
the
go back to
ideology
Mayimuna.
aside,
I
there's something
think
that is
the
in
root
common.
of the cause is deeper than what we are talking about. Because personally, maybe if I was at Makere, my chances of supporting a candidate that is not a woman would be high at this point of time regarding the dynamics, because there was Nancy Kalembe in the race,
presidential race.
and Nancy Kalembe didn't have a party, didn't have she just had a manifesto. So probably if as a woman I said, let me get my vote and gave it to Nancy, there was a high chance of my vote going to West. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not being patriarchal, but I'm being analytical. That there is another person who has an ideology. That is Kyagulanyi Ssentamu for me as a noob person. So I felt like he had my ideology that spoke to me. I loved Nancy and I would love to support her, but she didn't have the resources to go through the campaign. And giving her my vote, I was going to likely lose my vote. So I felt like it would be better for me to just give my vote to the person who stood a chance.
Ladies, let's take a break, and then we come back. But when we come back, I want us to interrogate if the Pact of Unity will then strengthen, the 11th August by-election. What I want to see what that dynamic will be like. Yeah. But then also, as we peek into the future, I want us to reimagine what women's political participation can be like. What it is we've seen, what it can be like for the future is something that we will then talk about. Don't go away, let's come back.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back to the show. We want to wind down. We've had a hearty conversation during the break, but take this time to subscribe, like, leave a comment, and share with your friends. Here on Civic Space TV, we encourage you to continue these conversations. Yeah, ladies, we left with the heat of things, but I want us to then look to what the future is going to look like for us. Yeah. August 11 is almost here. Is this week actually on, I think, Thursday. And we have another by-election that is going to happen. But it's happening after the Pact of Unity. So maybe to look forward, what do we then expect? Will we have a better experience of, opposition unity in the next by-election? And to bring you in there, Trassyleen, do you think this unity will have, a better success at August 11th?
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to say that, yes, the coalition has been there, or it has been signed by whichever people did so. Maybe they're the representatives of those political parties, or they are on the forefront. But you see, Ugandans, there is something that some of us forget with politics or with the elections. You cannot come in on the last second and you say, see, now for us, we are going to unite in this way and this way. Actually, Ugandans, I think some of them are not interested in elections. They are interested in service delivery. Because
but you can't get the people that are going to serve without, voting
Going
them
through the
into
yes,
election.
they are there exactly. But I'm saying some of them feel, let those ones choose for us. Maybe, who knows? But on the other extent, I feel that there is more to show with these politics. For example, if I may say, this coalition. Why are we coming up in a coalition just because of elections? Yes, they are violent. Recently, we were supposed to have elections here at Makere. But what happened? A student died.
And should we leave it as a norm?
No, and this is a scenario where it was in line with actually opposition, because it was FDC and NUP and blah blah. What happened or what happens? Do we have that heart of standing out when such scenarios come in? Because as far as I know, FDC sent representatives. We have our deputy, this Nyanjula. She went. That is something that was blinded, and it was a talk of the country, by the way. It was something that was blinded for those other political parties, maybe the NUP. At least maybe they should send someone as a representation. But you see, if we only want to show that all we need are elections, and we don't want to care what is going to happen, then that way we keep losing people, and that will also contribute to the violence that is happening.
Tracy is not talking about who kills the people.
Yes.
Exactly. So we are talking about elections brutality, but we are not, because actually
who is behind the brutality?
Who is killed? Who killed the FDC guy? Who killed, who kills those people? That is what we have to interrogate and see how we can go about that. Yeah.
Maybe when we go back to you, Mayimuna, we've had coalitions before. This is not the first one. We've had the TDA. We've always had coalitions here with us, and it's not new for us to have a pact like this. But do we then imagine that this will be the one that delivers change for us?
Yeah, change has happened not only in we are not only striving for change here. Change has happened in various countries in Africa. And in most cases, they try out strategies and repeat those strategies, and you never know which strategy gets you there.
True.
You might even just try again a strategy, learn from your mistakes, and then that strategy wins for you. So we can never give up when it comes to striving for change. If we need change, we have to employ any strategy. If you do not agree with the strategy that is going on, think of your own strategy and start that strategy too. I don't like the idea when people come out and they're like, I do not agree with this. Start yours. If you do not agree with the red card, Bessage's red card, start something. Maybe it will work for us. All we need as Ugandans, oppressed Ugandans, to say is change. We just need change. And whoever can bring us that change is the person we are interested in. We do not mind about strategy. We should just try out all we can. So for now, what is going on in the country is NUP, FDC, JEMA, and PPP to, join forces and see. Maybe there's something they did not do the last time they cooperated. Maybe they are going to employ it right now. So we cannot say nothing will happen, because as change goes on, we just need to employ strategies, and whichever strategy works for us is what we need. Because if we focus on people's strategies, we are losing out on the gist. We are losing out on the vision of making change, and things are becoming worse and worse every day. People's lives are on the line. People are dying. During the election, they said, the report was saying 100 people, but I believe there were more than 100 people. People died. 100 people in one day died. Just because we are focusing on other people's strategy. you're focusing on FDC strategy. Personally, I believe we can have very many parties, and as long as we are united, because FDC has its own parts that it commands. For example, the East. NOP has its parts that it commands very well. Of course, we command the whole country, but we have our very, very big strongholds. And, Ant also has some population. So if we can unite and maybe talk about bringing one person for presidency, that will work for us. But I think as we talk about different things, starting a coalition is the core part of, talking about the election, the 2026 elections. I don't know if they will happen or not. It will depend on, the dialogues that will take place.
And I love that you've talked about the fact that we all have political parties have different ideologies, because previously also during Nigeria, when I asked her this particular question on unity, she was like, we all have different ideologies with different manifestos, but that doesn't necessarily say we are not doing something to fight to get to one end.
Yes.
And the one end is that we have the same vision, is that we change political space. But maybe let me ask you then, Hellen, do you think this attempt at unity promises to sanitize the political order and environment that we are in right now?
Well, until we stop the self-seeking, until we stop the if it is not me, then nobody, even these coalitions are not taking us anywhere. I actually want to bring in an example of the Sorority by-election. We had the same coalition happening. But I saw some presidential candidate who just went with his posters and was throwing them all over, instead of throwing the posters of the candidate. So what does that show? It shows that we are not there for a candidate, but we are there for self-seeking. I have evidence towards that some political head who purportedly had gone there to campaign for the candidate in the area who is a turn, the FDC candidate, went with his posters instead, and he was throwing them, showing his posters instead of showing the posters of the candidate. What does that show? It shows that you're not there for the candidate, but you're there for yourself. So it is, these coalitions are actually beyond what we see. So until we put the word self aside and we put the country Uganda ahead, then we are still not going to achieve anything within these coalitions. What do I mean here? If we've gone into a by-election and we're saying we are into a coalition, our role now is to make sure we deliver success of the candidate. Leave alone the monetization of politics, because as you were talking, you told us how I saw also how the Prime Minister was dishing money. And what does that mean now? It means that we've shifted, not even to, we are shifting from, we are going to chaos, we are going to monetization, and the opposition does not have the money to which the NRM has.
So then do you think such a pact would help in sanitizing such a political environment?
It would help if we put self aside, that I mentioned earlier. We must put the country first and it will work. I believe coalitions can work. Let NUP merge. Also, DP, we shall try to do our best. Every other person has their role. Let us play our roles as we're supposed to do, and we shall get there. If DP will say let us dialogue, allow us to. What we need is actually the support of masses. If we are saying let us dialogue, you never know. We can dialogue, and if you want your violence, go do it. Maybe we shall meet somewhere. For us, DP, we are saying we are creating a bridge. Because if you're coming from Ginger, you will need to get to Ginger, and you need to go back to Ginger. So for us, we are saying, let us create a bridge. As you you make coalitions, make them, and we also dialogue this side. Maybe we shall meet somewhere, because
Hellen,
what is the strategy?
Like she said, different people are using different
strategies. Let
strategies.
everyone use the strategy that they can. Because ideology is seemingly not working. We've been to elections, members. Let me mention it again. We've done coalitions. Actually, DP is the master of coalitions. DP started the people power, We championed for people power. We went ahead and we were asking to develop special purpose vehicle. Even the red card front was an idea of DP.
Are you sure DP
yes, it was. Even those books that are being, because that's where even the people power came from. So we are actually the champions of what you're talking about.
Hellen, allow me to say that DP is the master of self-interest. Because here's my reason. If DP was really interested in dialogue, I think Mao would have dialogued when he's party president, not Minister of Constitutional Affairs. Which position was Seranda given?
What does
they first went for the positions? Actually, where I disagreed with DP, whenever I find a DP candidate, they are more bitter about NUP than NRM. That was my first issue. I was like, why are these people more bitter? Because I know we have different strategies, but do not be bitter about NUP's strategy. Just start your dialogue. But even when you're going to dialogue, do not dialogue when you're Minister of Constitutional Affairs. Stay as president. Put your members on board. The members of DP were not put on board, according to what we say, because everyone is having a very different
language. To go back and read the roles of this ministry that has been given to the to our president,
read the agreement,
and also read the agreement, because you're talking the surface bit of it.
Yeah. Okay,
you're not looking at the what is under the surface.
Because I don't want us to go into that. That's a little bit sticky, because it will take us some time, and we'll have that back and forth. Maybe to reorganize ourselves on our way forward. How do we have more women in these decision-making spaces going forward, so that we can increase women's political leadership and participation? I'll begin with you, Trassyleen.
Okay, so I think it all starts with us as women. I'll take a look at maybe these top positions. If you're to look at vice presidents, even when we are saying that post is for women, how many have really been on that position? Started with Speciosa, and then we have Jessica. So how many years have passed there?
True.
So if we come to the speakership, whatever, we had President Museveni, we have had very many speakers in there. How many ladies do we have there? When you go to the Chief Justice, we've not had any. So what does this show? That us as ladies, sometimes I feel we've taken up the inferiority complex thing to feel that, you see, I as Tracy, I cannot do that. I as Tracy, I think this is where my limit is. I cannot. That fear within us of I cannot. You want to do it, but there are very many voices in your mind again saying, Tracy, you cannot do it.
I think also the environment that we exist in
do it, yes.
makes it
and then also, of course, the mindset of society. How are we going to beat that? It starts with us. And then the few of us that are there. For example, this platform. What are we doing? Are we maybe inviting ladies to talk, and then maybe we are not giving some reach out to the communities behind?
Oh no, we do actually.
Yes. So
I hope you know about us. So we have over 5 shows here, and one is called the community show. That is for the community.
Oh yeah.
And then the youth round table, I think I've also been here for it. Yeah, so I feel it all goes back to us. We are capable of anything, ladies. Let us not feel that because I'm a woman, I cannot do that course unit, or I cannot do that combination. Because we realize that the smarter we are, the better it becomes for us as ladies. The better for society not to doubt our capacity. So we need to rise up with more energy. Have mentors. Some of us will just go wherever life takes me. That's it. Have mentors. I can tell you mentors help. Sit down with them, talk to them, pick a thing or two. Also, you talk to 5 others behind. And make sure you do follow up. Because someone will come and talk to you 5 years later, you have never seen the person again. I feel these mentorship trainings and programs also contribute something to us. But how best are we going to extend them even to the grassroots? Because women are not only here in schools, in hospitals, in churches, no. women are there in the village. And by the way, those are the people that are affected most by the patriarchal society. Where you find even LC1, they will tell you, no, we don't want a woman. Where you find those women are being abused just because they do not have the capacity to stand out. Or maybe culture perceives it that way, that because you are a woman, you should not come up as a, or maybe you should not take up politics. If you take up politics, you're going to be a big-headed woman. And you find even the men themselves are feeling like, they just leave you. So I feel however much it is a women move, there is also need to educate the men. Because in the long run, they are the same people that are going to help us move together as ladies. If a man understands the need for a lady, maybe to take up such a role or such a position, then they will. But if they do not understand it, however much you understand it, it is also going to be a limit to yourself. So we need to stand up, get through mentorship, rise up, be as smart as we can to beat up this patriarchal society.
All right. Mentorship. Hellen, how do we increase, women at the decision table so that we have more women political participation?
Well, I want to agree with Tracy that it starts with us. Women being the biggest population, I believe we're about 52% of the population, of which men are about 50. I believe if we supported each other, then we can get there. Leave alone the issue of the ideology or what, there is something we have in common at least. And trust me, if you have a woman there, at least you have a voice and you can always get to that woman and tell her, look here. We have a big task of mentoring them when they're there. We have a big task of those women that have gotten there to go down and also hold the hand of some woman and put her there. Civil society, you have a very good and big role to play in down villages. Can we move these orientation, these training programs from metropolitan and take them down there in the villages and also groom more women?
Hellen, something just struck me is that for the past few time we've been talking about civic space shrinking, and now, as obvious as it is, also the political space has begun to shrink. How do we reconcile that reality with us wanting women to be, in the political space as well?
What matters now is having to agree on terms to which we're going to work to. That if we are promoting women to be in politics, as political parties, we need to develop some policies. Civil society help political parties to come up with policies that support women in their political parties. I am glad Democratic Party at least has a sexual harassment policy, a policy against sexual harassment, that if a woman is there, at least you're very secure and you're very safe. And if you're a man, at least you're sure that your woman in DP is a bit safe. So can civil society also help these political parties to develop policies, to check on them on how the women are doing and are they giving space to women? And we need also electoral reforms on some of these things. Can we have, if at least a woman has served for two Bisanja on woman MP, can she at least move somewhere and bring somebody up?
Okay.
Yeah.
Have policy. I want to end with you, Mayimuna, but critically also to address the shrinking civic space and then the shrinking political space and how we can navigate that for women in political leadership.
Yeah, the political space is really shrinking because, one, we have a very rotten system. The government we are working with is not, efficient enough. Because if you bring, if there is police brutality during elections, it makes it hard for women to come on board because someone has children to take care of, and when they think of losing their lives, it's very hard. I have a friend who spent a lot of time in prison. The baby was about 6 months. She was a noob candidate in Kawempe. And it took her, like, this baby did not breastfeed because the mother was in jail. So, and if another woman sees that, it's going to be hard for them to, you know, stand up and be like, I want to also become a politician and get on those decision-making tables. So that is so discouraging. And then too, if we as women take up the space, let us be very effective. Let us do the work that we need to do. It is quite challenging. Some women do good work, but according to how it is on the ground, like our grounds, people see different, like believe in different work. And then, for example, when you're an MP, people will want you to, will not look at your legislative work, because very many women are doing very good legislative work, but that is not what people want. Do the legislative work very well, but also do the things that people on ground need you to do. Yes, so you have to know the dynamics of politics as a woman, and make sure that you're effective in a way that your electorate needs you to be. So there's a lot of work we need to do, culture changes and the mindset, and we can only break that through, you know, like pushing more women into politics. For example, like in Mukono, we have Honorable Betty Namboze. She's on a direct seat, and I'm glad now in Mukono people think a direct seat. Not all, but most of them know that a direct seat can also be taken up by a woman. And a woman can also do great things like Honorable Betty Namboze is doing back at home. So, yeah, we need to do a lot of changes.
Thank you, ladies. So there you have it. We are looking at issues of mentorship for women, for policy, to make sure we can then navigate the space better, but equally to be effective and deliver. And perhaps we'll begin to see that, you know, women's political leadership and participation is something that can deliver. So we look forward to the August 11 election, by-election. We want to see what the Pact of Unity will do. But from us here at Civic Space TV, thank you for joining us. Have a good day. Bye-bye.